My name is Dr. Mark Ibani. I'm reaching you from Lagos, Nigeria. And we have 4 other persons connected so far. And we are proceeding with our program. It's my pleasure to welcome you. Like we'll say, social media, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone, where you're connecting to this program from. This program is being broadcast live by Njenje Media TV, our media partner. You were invited to participate in this program by the African Network of Professionals. Our objective sounds almost like our name because we promote professionalism in Africa. And this is what has inspired this seminar series for 2025. I will introduce the main subject of this seminaries with a short story. Can you please mute? Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, in November 2015, I represented my company at the Lagos International Trade Fair. Usually it holds every first week of November. That has been the tradition for decades. And usually first day, second day, third day, everybody participant will have time to go around and see what else, who else is participating and what they have to offer. And then I saw this, I got to this stand being hosted by a research institute. I think their research has to do with transportation in Nigeria. I've forgotten the full name now. And then as they were showing visitors around, I saw something that intrigued me, and I started wondering why such a product is not on every car in Nigeria. It was a brake pad that was made from a mixture of ground palm kernel, the shell, rather, palm kernel shell, yes. They mixed it along with other stuff, and they produced a brake pad that will last longer, 4 times longer than the normal brake pad, and absorbs even more heat from the activity of braking. And I was like, how come such an amazing product is not on every car in Nigeria? So I asked around, they said, well, this product has been around for years, and yet no company has thought of mass producing it. They'll give them the rights, and they were fully ready to collaborate. And that's what they do. And I recall that this institute comes to the trade fair. I mean, they've been there for years, for decades. Every year they come. And it doesn't appear that any of the products of their research is available in the market for the Nigerian populace. And of course, by extension, they could export to other African countries. And then by extension, possibly, I mean, if the product could do all that it was touted to be able to do, it was an exportable product. So that brings up the question, why is it that so many wonderful things that come out of research institutes, the universities, and other places in Africa do not make it to the industrial place and then become things of everyday use? Why? That is what we decided this year to explore that subject in 4 seminars, 4 quarterly seminars. This is the first one. We're going to do another one in June, and on and on. The topic that is why we chose as a theme for the seminar series, the theme is The theme is translation of African research results to industrial products. So it addresses squarely the kind of problem I have identified in my introduction. And today, we have a panel of discussants who are going to explore the subject, the topic, collaboration between the academia and the industry. How far have we come? Where should we be going? And other preliminary matters relating to this subject. And on our panel of discussants tonight, this evening, or depending on your time zone, we have Dr. Zabli, who is joining us all the way from Montreal, Canada. Dr. Zabli is a biomedical engineering expert operating out of Canada. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Please, it's network challenges from here. So, like I said, Dr. Zwabli is a biomedical engineer operating out of Canada. That's where he's connecting us from. But he's originally from Côte d'Ivoire. That makes him bilingual. He's one of the discussants. And another of the panel of discussants is Professor Christian Nzota. He is also a biomedical engineering expert, but has a PhD in nuclear physics. He's joining us from Nigeria, from the Nnamdi Azikiwe University here in Nigeria. And then we have Professor Chidi Oswago. Each time I'm involved in introducing Professor Oswago, it becomes a huge task because he's is colossal in terms of, but the last I interacted with him, I know he's a professor, now emeritus of biochemistry of the Federal University of Technology, Owerri. That's the last I know. So if as we interact, we're going to get to know more about members of this panel of discussants. So I think we're going to take turns. Let me see who is okay. So, okay. Professor Chido Swabri, you are the first I can see from my list of those who are connected. Please, I would crave your indulgence to please lead this discussion. So, sir, the microphone is passed to you now. Please open up and then let's take the ball rolling, sir. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Greetings, African professionals and other Africans on this program today from any part of the world you are. Our discourse today is about an existential issue related to professional search for knowledge and the ability to translate it to social solutions, which is what in the Western world that have become our reference is called the town and gown linkage. The gown you wear at matriculation, at graduation, are ritual things, but in between them are some knowledge you pick. And you're supposed to pick that knowledge to take it back to the town from the higher institution to use it to solve problems, to translate it to solutions to problems in the community. Now, the traditional African episteme and epistemology, the knowledge system, which is quite sophisticated, the most sophisticated in the world, was designed that way, where the knowledge people, mostly the medicine people casually called these days, we are the generators of knowledge, and they generated it and translated it to solutions, even in the diaspora. If you get to the Americas and Indies, you found out that the Obia, these knowledge people, we are anchor for the survival of our people under severe adversity, because they maintain the link between the acquisition of knowledge and the translation of that knowledge to solutions. But the knowledge system that was brought to us by the West Eurasians, the Arabs, and the Europeans was just aimed at marketing some worldviews and so on, just narcissistic marketing of their own, sometimes inferior ideas. And Africans got trapped in that system, and it has governed the curricula, the knowledge acquisition and transmission process, curriculum like current, as it runs. You run courses around the circle, one course, you go to another. And it defines what you achieve by running. That's the original meaning of curriculum, but this, you do it around knowledge, are designed to produce Africans through manual laborers and clerks and all kinds of disposable general duty people, not people who are professionally oriented towards solving problems for their community, like it was before in African tradition. So our curriculum in the universities in Africa today, which are mostly signboards that generate within them some kind of knowledge looking for validation outside Africa, and not solving our people's problem. And we have realized this is a serious problem, which is why we are here today. But immediately, we saw that arise within the context of COVID-19. And you find out, if it is not the traditional knowledge and professional system, our people would have died out. And that the Madagascans that relied on that traditional system, in their population of 30 million people, they lost less than 2,000 to COVID. And Tanzania, with 60 million people, whose president there, John Magufuli, enthusiastically embraced the Madagascar Protocol. Lost less than 1,000 people officially to COVID. But because people lacked the confidence and not know what was going on, how France was aggressively trying to squash this local initiative, for instance, they wouldn't believe it. A country like Nigeria that is totally in the academic and intellectual pocket of the Arabs and the Europeans, ignored the Madagascar Protocol. Sometime I took time out to explain the mechanism of the Madagascar Protocol and why it is very, very useful, and why it will become very, very useful in the future, and why we should not wait for aliens to tell us what it is about. And at a conference in Yerevan, Armenia, October 2023, I explained the mechanism, which is not something many people know about now, but that it make the Madagascar Protocol useful, broader than it's appreciated now. It's appreciated in the treatment of cancer, but more immediately, the United States AIDS program that gives people palliatives, coupled to all kinds of Boko Haram and other problems, shut down. And you find out suddenly countries like in Southern Africa that have very heavy load of HIV are now looking helpless and useless. And they would not if we took translation of knowledge to social solutions into serious consideration in Africa, because the HIV are viruses, and the Madagascar Protocol, which is based on combination of artemisinin and ivermectin, would handle that problem better than anything you said will give to Southern Africa. We're about 8 million people now in South Africa alone are carriers of this virus. But because we are not oriented towards translation of findings, research findings to solutions, we ignore this. Many of the people listening to me today might be suffering, or their kinsmen will be suffering from prostate cancer, which is common among Africans now. But in fact, the Madagascar Protocol, if you are familiar with the literature, will deal with it effectively more than any other thing I can think of. So that is why we are here, to start addressing this issue and say, how do we link up the gown at our matriculation and the gown at our convocations, where we would have acquired some skills, some character, ethical system required for professionals to work well, and some tools. In this case, tools that are African tools that we can afford. That's what we have, where we have to start with. And we have a lot. What we don't have is the right orientation. We are not oriented towards systematic and conscious translation of research findings towards social solutions. And that's what we have come to talk about. And recently we hear about Maxwell Chikumboso, who is supposed to have invented a device or a system of devices or principle that can, whose analog can whose algorithm can transform microsonic waves to higher density energy waves, high amplitude waves through resonance processes, which in principle makes excellent sense. And we are saying, okay, this has happened. How do we translate it into listen, or do we have to listen to some alien to validate it, to tell us what to do before we turn around to know what to do? So this is why we are here to start a discussion of how to get our people reorientated toward the habit of translating research findings into industrial products, into social solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof, for laying this foundation. We can now start building on it. Professor Nsota Christian, you are next on my list, as it appears on my screen. Would you like please to take up the floor and then build on what Prof Oswabo has mentioned, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I want to commend the organizers of this program, the quarterly annual webinar. Today, we are looking at the collaboration between the academia and the industry, as rightly put by Professor Oswabo as the town and gown linkage. First, I want to define some key concepts. Number one, we are looking at collaboration, and that we define as the partnership or union of two or more persons or groups to commit to the possibility of producing an outcome greater than one that will be developed in silo. We also do know that effective collaboration requires active participation and engagement from both parties. In addition, the needs to be met are clear, and all the parties work towards meeting the needs. In this context, that is the town and the gown linkage, the universities must identify clearly the industrial need and align their curriculum and research goal to these needs accordingly. The industry and the academia are too large and two independent communities. They therefore require an intentional and a planned relationship. It wouldn't be an ad hoc arrangement. It wouldn't just arise because we know the need, we know the importance, we know that there is a benefit that would accrue from that. I believe the parties would be abreast of, they would know that these are the objectives and they work towards these objectives. The first is to bridge the gap between academic learning and research and industrial needs. Number two, it will foster innovation in the industrial setting. Nobody has time for academic work. They do their work routinely. What they do today probably will be what they will do tomorrow, will be what they will do the next day. So they are routine research takes away that routine position from the worker. So it fosters innovation. It encourages skill development and also enhances growth, economic growth. Number 5, it prepares the academia for the labor market and workforce through industrial training, internships and housemanships. We all know that the traditional classroom model of education cannot adequately prepare the students for the industrial assignments and jobs. According to a study by Harvard Business Review, companies with higher collaboration with universities, they have higher innovation output, they have higher quality patents, and they have more successful new ventures. So this relationship, this collaboration will be a major driver for innovation and growth. Also, this collaboration will reduce the bottlenecks that makes it look not workable. This relationship, the collaboration between the town and the gown, will create what I call the industry-academia linkage. The industry-academia community. This is joining of the industry, which is the practical world, with the academic sector, the theoretical world, for the betterment of the graduates, the general public.
Professor Onzota, we don't hear you. Can you fix the microphone, please?
Okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Well, I can hear you. Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. So we also know that this relationship will strengthen the linkage for better placement. That means it would improve employability, and it would also improve area career success and the industrial.
I'm not hearing the prof. Is it only me?
I can hear. I don't know why you people are not hearing. I can hear you.
Okay. So we notice that this collaboration invariably will facilitate a seamless transition from education to industry. It's important for us to know the components of the collaboration. Like I said earlier, this collaboration has to be intentional. It has to be planned. The modus operandi has to be agreed by the parties involved. So we will look at the components, what each party would be expected to do, and the protocols involved. The first one is the curriculum development. There will be a design and update of the educational programs to include industrial relevant skills, knowledge, and technologies. Number 2, there should be internship programs. This allows students to gain practical experience and apply classroom learning in real-world settings. For this,
Okay, it appears we've lost Prof. His network, like they say, network has thrown him out. Okay. Dr. Zwabli, you are next. Would you like to take off from where doctors stopped? By the time he reconnects, he can continue from his last point. So please, Dr. Zwabli, will you kindly unmute and then let's hear you, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah. Yes, you're back now. Yes, we can hear you. Dr. Zwabli, please just allow him to continue, then we can come back.
I'm sorry about that. The network is misbehaving. So let me
go
be
ahead,
fast so that, okay. So
yeah, we appreciate that.
We said the third component of this is guest lectures and workshops. The fourth will be research partnerships. Research partnerships is a situation where the industries would have to fund some aspects of their research that would enhance their productivity or that would open up an avenue for their expansion and growth. Number 5, there will be advisory boards. The collaborators would agree to form advisory board. This board will comprise of industrial experts who will provide guidance on the curriculum, guidance on the academic development and progression, internship opportunities, and industrial trends. By industrial trend, I mean the workings in the industry. Number 5, there will be professional development programs, which would require industries offering industrial certifications, skill development programs, and continuing education courses to enhance students' employability and career readiness. It is also important that number 6, there will be easy access and transfer of the intellectual property of the researcher. By intellectual property of the researcher, I mean the patents, the copyrights, the trademarks, the trade secrets, the industrial designs, plant breeder rights, circuit layout rights, etc. This achieved, let's look at the importance of this intellectual property right transfer. Number 1, it will create incentive and creativity. It would also create innovation by the profit made. Because when a researcher transfers his copyright or his intellectual property right to an industry, the remuneration, the money he gets or the benefit he gets, recognition and financial benefit, would encourage him to work harder and would also encourage other researchers to produce quality research. On the other hand, the industry would also be encouraged by the extent of innovation they would receive through the acquired rights, acquired intellectual property right. Number 2, this transfer will promote economic growth because it will attract investments and will foster economic growth through commercialization of these properties. You know, the properties we are given as intangible assets, but the industry now will convert this intangible asset to a tangible asset. The industry will now have legal protection for the things they do, and it will also lead to fair competition. Now, let's look at the derivable benefits of this collaboration. There are obvious derivable benefits which the two parties in the collaboration, in the partnership, will have. The first will be enhanced relevance. This collaboration ensures that the educational programs are relevant to current industrial needs, so that universities don't go ahead mounting programs that have no relevance to the need of the people. This would increase graduates' employability and would improve job placement rates. Number two, there will be real-world experience even in the universities. You will have industrial insights, and it would increase networking opportunities. When I mean networking opportunities, I do not mean internet network, no. I am talking about it will improve relationships, which will lead to referrals, mentorship, and career growth. I want to say that this collaboration of the academia and the industry will move the academic and industrial world forward. This would enhance the productivity of our industries, thereby increasing our national GDP, gross domestic product, and make the academic researchers a lot more relevant. I will pause here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Nzota, for the expanding on this subject. Thank you. We appreciate your contribution very much. Okay, third on the list of our panel of discussants is Dr. Zwabli, collecting from Canada. Dr. Zwabli, you have the floor now. Please, let's hear you.
Thank you. I will have to share my presentation.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Okay, so you see my screen?
It's coming up.
Yeah.
Has it?
Do you see it now?
Is there? Yeah.
Okay, okay. Some have seen it. Please go ahead.
Good. So my presentation will be around the biomedical engineering. So I give an example of how collaboration can be possible between biomedical academia and medical industry in Africa. First, I will speak about research in biomedical engineering. I will have a thinking about African International Program of Biomedical Engineering, a possibility of that. How can it be managed, and what are the languages? Because in Africa, we have plenty of languages there. I will talk about the organization chart of biomedical engineering in Africa, research, innovation, and development centers, examples that will be given. And I think it will be good to promote telework and collaboration of African biomedical engineers locally and with the diaspora. Africa is big, so if we want to work together, we need to have some kind of facilities. How can we develop industry according to countries' strengths? And if we can digitize biomedical technologies as much as possible to make it accessible from Africa and anywhere in the world, it will be good. I will discuss about those points. And what are the medical devices that can be manufactured in Africa? You know, in our hospital, we have some common devices, and it will be possible with our academia, industry, research, and things like that. How can we be manufacturing those devices locally? We have standards in Africa. If we have one common African standard agency, I think it will have some kind of advantages and a conclusion, and we will finish my presentation. So my background is in biomedical engineering, but I have an executive MBA from Paris Dauphine, France, and here in UQAM, University of Quebec at Montreal. I have a PhD in biomedical engineering from University of Montreal, a Master of Degrees in biomedical engineering for Polytechnique of Montreal. And in my native land, Côte d'Ivoire, I'm an engineer. I have a degree in engineering in electronics and telecommunication and a technology in electronics diploma. Some few distinctions here in Canada, Santa Catarina Hospital in 2007 and 8 for professional influence and innovation. For the recognition program of Polytechnique Montreal, I had the internship star supervisor award for undergraduate and graduate students. And for Canadian Medical and Biological Engineering Society, I was the 2018 Outstanding Biomedical Engineering Award for Canada. I have my publications available here. I'm in professional associations, Quebec Association of Physicists and Biomedical Engineers. I was the president in 2010 and 2012. I was also the chair of Continuing Education and Academic Affairs Committee since from 2017 to 2024. And now I'm vice president Biomedical Engineering for the same association. In CMBS, I have some responsibilities. I co-chaired the 31st conference in 2008. I was the chair of the publication and some few responsibilities in CMBS. I'm on the board of engineers here in Quebec and on the board of engineers in Côte d'Ivoire, my native country. So in biomedical engineering, there are some few expertise, electrophysiology, medical imaging, diagnostic or therapy, wireless technology in healthcare, central sterilization or processing, devices and processes, surgical instrumentation, management, critical care unit instrumentation, strategic planning of medical devices, clinical engineering workshop management, and the medical device standard of practice. I'm on the Canadian committee here for a few years now. So the universities where I have intervened and continue to intervene is University of Montreal, ISIS in Côte d'Ivoire for biomedical engineering, here for biomedical engineering too, ESPITA in Tunisia for biomedical engineering, and Polytechnique Montreal too. And in my community, I'm on many board of directors, so I have some kind of responsibility in my community. So to say that I have 32 years here in Canada, and I'm well integrated into my community and country of residence. For African Network of Professionals, the executive board of ABC, African Biographical Center. I'm the international director. And for the executive board of African Network of Professionals, where I'm the assistant general coordinator of African Network of Professionals. Now let's start our presentation. For those who don't know or want to discover biomedical engineering, it's the application of the principles and problem-solving technique of engineering to biology and medicine for diagnosis and analysis or for treatment and recovery. Biomedical engineering focuses on the advances that improve human health and healthcare at all levels. Sometimes we call it BME. So for the presentation, we'll talk about research, innovation, we'll talk about manufacturing, we'll talk about standard of practice, education, and clinical engineering. So let's start with the research in biomedical engineering. What are the areas of specialization that can be possible? We have biomechanics, biophotonics and biomedical nanotechnology, electrophysiology, clinical engineering, tissue engineering and biomaterials, instrumentation and biomedical imaging, musculoskeletal health informatics. And for the research, innovation, and development centers, possibly we may have biomechanic and biomaterial research groups, scoliosis computer labs, laboratory of biomedical modeling and computer-assisted surgery, tissue engineering laboratory, nanotechnology laboratory, immunology and cancer research center, reproductive health, child health research group, brain and learning research group, neurological research, central nervous system research group, Geriatric Research and Center for Interdisciplinary Research in Rehabilitation. So the thinking of an African international program of biomedical engineering, that program must or have to be possible with virtual training, virtual lecture, or be locally implemented or collaborative. So that's the aim is to develop biomedical engineering in Africa. So how can it be managed? For the management, we need to have a field of engineering. We need to have a field of research and innovation and development. We need to have medicine, so be affiliated with a faculty of medicine. The planning guides must be a department to know how we manage the installation of equipment, etc., and the manufacturing. So we may have these headquarters. Since we have many languages here in Africa, which language do we take? I think the colonization for this example is a solution. We have 3 languages, major languages that are mainly from colonization. So we have Arabic, French, and English mainly. So I think if I have a recommendation to do for our universities in the industry, what are the languages we have to share for being able to work together will be to be bilingual mainly. So French and English, Arabic and French, or Arabic and English, at least being bilingual. And what is the academical portfolio? For that, I just give here a summary chart. We have a program director, we have the secretary for the Faculty of Medicine, the secretary for the School of Engineering, and then we have the standards and the certifications. We have the education in where we have medicine, biomedical engineering, and medical physics. We have international cooperation, so the collaboration might be inside Africa, but outside also. And for the research, we need to have a research in medical imaging, biomechanic, and biomaterial, biomedical modeling, and so forth. And the industrial partnership has to be there so that the patents and manufacturing might be realizable. So, as I said, all headquarters are very important to implement this realization because biomedical engineering is multi-professional. So we have at the same place any kind of engineering so that we need to have these headquarters possible. And in Africa, we have very good universities of engineering. We have also very good faculties of medicine. So we can, how can this be possible? It's to have the possibility of telework, collaboration of biomedical engineers to make it possible between local engineers in Africa and the other engineers in the diaspora. An example we have here is that we have some kind of benefits to do a telework, so better emergency preparedness. We have the better performance, healthier workers, lower turnover, and the lower costs, cleaner environment. That are some examples. So this is an example of a remote teaching class that can be possible. We need to have a high-speed internet, and it has to be working all the time. We also have to think about distant learning institutes, as the example here we have in Nigeria. And if we need to use or develop biomedical engineering in Africa, the first thing first, that is to digitize biomedical technology as much as possible to make it as accessible from Africa and anywhere in the world. The example here is if you are, let me make it big, okay? So if you are here in Côte d'Ivoire, my native land, and we have made everything digital by having a PAX, RIS, dictation, that everything being digital. If you have, you were in Burkina Faso, and you have an accident, you have a radiograph, the information is at once available in your country or anywhere you are. You don't need to have a CD or the film or anything. And we can have a collaboration between a radiologist who is in another country, but part of the network to read all those films. So we need first to be able to digitize the network, the imaging. We need also to have inter-university partnership. And I think the role of African biomedical engineering diaspora will be important so that everywhere they are, they can contribute to the African development. We need also to have student exchange program between African and foreign universities that can, you don't need to make to start from nothing, from a blank page. We need to share knowledges, for African knowledges with foreign knowledges. We also need to have class given by teachers from African biomedical engineers in local and in the diaspora. So my idea is not to focus only on Africa. We have Africans everywhere in the world, so we need to have collaboration inside Africa and outside Africa. So the courses and lab by teachers and professionals from the diaspora might be in medicine, in engineering, research, innovation, and development. And local engineers can have the work that needs a presence. We may have a contract that make possible to have 30 days by a year to be present in the country you want to contribute to the teaching and industry. What will be the role of African network of professionals for making possible this collaboration? I think we need to be active members of African network of professionals. We may have full members, we may have institutional members, corporate members. I will explain it in the next slide, or we need to make some kind of link between you want to be recognized as an international professional in Africa, but you need also to be member of ANOP. And ANOP, African Network of Professionals, will check the background to recognize your expertise as a diaspora worker. The duration of the recognition is for a few years. You have to renew it. And we may also have some kind of annual rating of biomedical engineering program in Africa. So we have some awards, academic award, a lab award, research and development awards, and innovation awards. So for the membership, if you are an engineer or an institution or in medicine, you may be a full member of African Network of Professionals. So for the ANOP academic and research collaboration, I think it will be good to learn about what are the strengths of African countries. I gave the example here for agricultural and mineral resources in Africa. So if we think about it, we can develop the industry where we have some kind of strength for the country. So the example I give here, if we look about the agricultural or mineral strength of the country and its strategic geographic position, for example, it's an example, okay? In Angola, for the diamonds, we can have an industry that need diamonds near Angola, Congo, cobalt, Côte d'Ivoire, cocoa, Egypt, iron, Ethiopia, copper, Ghana, gold, Gabon, manganese, Kenya, rubies, Nigeria, oil, Niger, nuclear, South Africa, chromium, example. So it's an example. It's not to say that we do this at this place, but it's an example. We see the strength of a country and we develop our industries at considering that information. So If we think about manufacturing in partnership with African universities and industries that are located in Africa, according to those parameters, what can we give as an example? So I have some examples to give in the next slides. There is no conflict of interest with a manufacturer of these examples used for illustration. I was in Cote d'Ivoire 2 years ago, and the responsible of medical devices, medical buildings in Cote d'Ivoire, he said that I think we need to have some bylaw to help the country to develop technologies locally. For example, wheelchairs, and he gave some kind of example. So this is this idea I give here as an example. So for example, those are very common devices, medical devices we use in our hospitals. So vital sign monitors, examination lamp, baby scale, oxygen concentrator. We could start with this kind of basic equipment, and we could manufacture in partnership with brand that already exists to have locally their manufacture, or to develop our own devices according to the particularity of African weather or our culture and things like that. So that's some examples I give here, some few examples. So we have medical beds and lifts that can be possibly manufactured locally, medicine charts or pediatric charts can be locally manufactured, bath chair, walker, shower, stretcher, commode chair, wheelchair, IV poles, floor scale, defibrillators, ambu bag. So that's a few examples I given here. We have patient lifts, few examples of patient lifts depending on the weight of the patient. These can be possible if you have a standard of working. And I saw some few standards here in Africa. So the idea already exists. So we have the African Organization for Standardization. We have the UN Economic Commission for Africa. We have the South African Bureau of Standards. We have Kenya Bureau of Standards, and other countries have standards. Why can we think about one common African standard agency? So we need, I think, to do such a thinking so that we might optimize all the standardization of technologies in biomedical and other technologies for the industry. What will be the advantage of doing that? What will be the goals of an unified African standard agency? I saw what CSA here in Canada wrote on their website. So we have to develop standards. We have to make the world and Africa better, safer, and sustainable, and customize devices to our environment, our values, and our culture. In conclusion, I think that the synergy between education, academic research, and industry can lead Africa to develop its medical industry. A little help in the form of national law and regulation could foster this growth. Standardization, I think, is one important key step. With a unified African Standard Agency that could be supported by African Development Bank, more results will be reached efficiently on a larger scale for African community. As perspective, I think that African Institute of Biomedical Engineering will be a good idea. So we could have biomedical engineering partner around the world for the medical and biological development in Africa. We could have diaspora professional to contribute to teaching, researcher, trainer, manager, and industrials, and the local engineers in Africa, local professionals in Africa will be contributive. So thank you, and if you have questions, we are here for that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zwabli. I think what you have tried to do is, while we are still laying the foundations, you've already dropped a blueprint, in fact, several blueprints. So industrialists that are here connected, you have something to start working on. Thank you very much. 3 discussants. For the rest of us that are connected, please, if you have noted any question, very soon we're going to use questions and answers to enlarge the subject, because there's no way our 3 discussants can cover every aspect. We are still trying to lay the foundation on which we are going to build. So at this point, the subject is still very, very broad. So if you have noted questions, please keep them. We are soon going to go to questions. I would like to ask the first question, and then any of the discussants who would like to take it would please indicate, and then I will give him the floor or the microphone. The question is, the problem has been how to even start. That's where we are now. How do we even start? Who is going to bear the cat, so to speak? Who's going to bear the cat? So one area that appears to be, where there appears to be a big gap, is the information transmission. Why I say that is this: sometimes you pick foreign magazines or foreign media sources, and you hear a university talking about, you hear a Time magazine, CNN, Newsweek, BBC reporting on research findings that are groundbreaking, that are earth-shaking, that everybody knows that, oh, this is going to influence the life of, everybody in the whole world. And then from there, some come knocking, okay, how can we translate this? And then they start building from there. How do we bridge this information gap between the academia? Books are written, most of the books that are written, once they're accounted for, I'm not in the academia, but this is my observation because I have a lot of friends. Once they're counted towards getting a PhD, getting a professorship, and then they just sit there in the shelves. They don't make it to the market, so that at least ordinary people can read. And then it begins to influence the way they think, the way they do things. Okay, so how do we bridge this information gap between the academia and the industry? Who would like to go first, please? Okay, Dr. Zabli, you are the last one that spoke. Okay, just hold on. There's a hand. Okay, Professor Nzota, please go ahead. Your hand is up.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to make 3 observations. The first observation is that the collaboration, like I said earlier, is intentional, and it has to be planned. The intentional component is that both parties would agree that this is what we want. Let me use a classical example. Nemet, a pharmaceutical company, can approach Nnamdi Azikiwe University, the pharmaceutical unit of Nnamdi Azikiwe University, and say, we want to produce a drug that will use our local herbs, but it will be injectable, for instance. That is the intentional component. Nnamdi Azikiwe University would accept that they would do it, and they will sign an MOU and a memorandum of understanding and action. Nemet will fund the research, which will be time-based. They will say, within 6 months, we want your pharmaceutical unit to come up with a result of herbs that can be compounded into drugs which will be injectable. So we start by having the 2 parties agreeing to do this. Then the second thing I want to say is that this collaboration has to be effective, which means it requires the active participation and engagement from both parties. There will be a monitoring unit that will check the progress, which means because the two parties are active in this research, they will share the patency. The patent would not go to Nnamdi Azikiwe University alone. It will not go to NIEMET. The two of them will have a right of that intellectual property. If NIEMET wants to buy the rights, to have the exclusive right to that property, they will pay off Nnamdi Azikiwe University. So this is the way to go in collaborations and partnerships. On the other hand, Nnamdi Azikiwe University may stumble into the result of a research which would be what NIEMET is looking for. And then Nnamdi Azikiwe University will now go with this publication. We have found this. We realize you've been looking for ways of achieving this. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you. Please go ahead.
Okay. They will now say, we want to sell this right, this intellectual property to you. In that case, it is not an intentional collaboration. The university stumbled onto the results and they felt that so and so companies will need it and they will now sell that, which means every university should have an intellectual property committee that will look at the findings, the results of the numerous researches, and will commercialize these properties. Unless these properties are commercialized, they are as good as result findings of researches. They would approach industries that would make use of these results and they will be put to use. So it is not, if we want to start it from the top, like Professor Zobli put it, we would end up looking for solution to the problem until Jesus comes. We can start in our little way. For instance, he talked about hospital equipment, biomedical equipment that could be produced in Nigeria. Splendid, beautiful as it were. The biomedical institutions in Nigeria can approach these companies that produce these biomedical equipment in Canada, in US, in wherever they are, and say, we want this factory set up in Nigeria first. If they agree on this arrangement, the Nigerian company will say, this is the local need of the people. And the biomedical institutions will come up with a prototype of what the Nigerian environment needs that would be marketable. If you produce a bed, if you have a company that produces a bed with Trendelenburg maneuver, for instance, by Trendelenburg maneuver, bed that would have 360 rotation, it rotates 300, can lie flat like a bed, can cause the patient stand erect. If you produce 50 of them, I bet you won't sell 20 in 5 years. That might not be the immediate need of the Nigerian environment. But the Nigerian environment will need a bed that is solid, that is strong, that is able to be wheeled around, and how the basic. So I think we should start from the beginning, and that is having an intentional relationship and having effective collaboration and having the needs of the industries highlighted with proper identification and alignment by the academia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much. All right. I see another hand up. Dr. Kenneth Nkumauda. We'd like to hear from you, please. Is it a question or a contribution? Hello? Hello, Dr. Kenneth?
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
No, we hear you now. Yes, go ahead.
I say it's a question, but it might also be a contribution. I know that.
No, sorry. Let's see whether any of the panel of discussants would like to comment on the question on hand.
The last
one. Do we start? Yes, Dr. Zogli, please.
It's okay.
Yeah, I just have to share something here. In Quebec, there was a company that was called Bertec. It's the first Quebec companies that work in medical beds. It was by law by Quebec government for 2 years. All medical beds that have to be in the hospitals here in Quebec have to be for this company. That helped the company to develop the beds and have to master the technology. Today, the company, its name is Biomedical. It's an international bed making company. That's why I asked about the little help from our governments. They can say, okay, we no more buy wheelchair, for example, or IV poles from everywhere. We just have to collaborate with a company who design these things, and we can customize it to our needs. And then we might have the expertise. And another medical device, and another one, and another one. So we can, when you have an elephant to eat, you do it by part, right? So we need to become medical device manufacturers, but we have to go step by step, and our governments have to help on that, to help to make possible the realization of that that manufacturing
that goal.
Yeah, that goal. So that was the point. I said, oh, it's legal. Quebec does that, and now we have a very good company here who design beds for the world. That was my
thank you very much.
An example. I
right.
I
can go ahead. Please. Yes, sir.
Now we have to take note that this is an African network of professionals, and that some of the paradigms that have been discussed by the last two speakers are based on market concept of society, which is not African. And I think I have to point out two facts in our consideration of translation. We must keep that in mind. We are looking at how to translate all research we have been doing and all the degrees and so into solution products for our people's well-being. And there are two concepts I want us to address our minds to. One is invention, the discovery of a new way of solving certain problems. And there is a challenge with this issue of invention, which have been mentioned, about patenting. You'll find out that the patenting process has become an obstacle which government has uses unintentionally to obstruct the development. I have a friend who was just buried last year, Sam Megwa. He invented a novel way of a toilet system. And when he went to patent it, he had to bribe Nigerian officials to patent and improve the toilet system. And of course, unfortunately, it's dead now. And nobody knows what's going to happen to it. So I think we want to come up with a suggestion, a new paradigm in which when Africans make invention, we get the patent officers to be the people running around villages and looking for people with inventions so that their promotion and salary and so on will depend on it. Instead of creating some people who are working in the office where you bring invention and you don't bribe them, they ignore it or they take it casual. We have to get the patent offices in Africa busy and give them quotas of a number of patent registrations they must achieve to sustain their offices or be dissolved and something done. That is one. The other challenge is the issue of innovation. Innovation. I have here on my table here, I have this container. This container contains some dried and powdered vegetables that always, every day I take part of it in my tea and or my soup to protect my body, protect my prostate and so on. Now, these are traditional vegetables used in Nigeria commonly, but having skills in medicine, chemistry, and so on, and know what they contain and know what they can do. The issue is that the way people used it before is not the way I'm using it now, which means I have innovated, made something new out of what we had before. And the question is, having done that, who has the right? Do I have a right to patent this vegetable that have been here maybe for 100,000 years, and the people have been using it? Or what we do? When I went to school, I studied in America. First, my community sent my elder brother with community money to the United States. Then I followed him with a scholarship. The question is, the community sent me there to improve the quality of my personal life or the quality of the communal life. This is an African phenomenon that might not apply to other cultures. So that we have to have a program, a paradigm that is African in things like this, so that we can think objectively. My immediate younger brother is a retired brewmaster, and we are discussing the other day, we swallow food, routine every day, like every Nigerian or every Southern Nigerian does. But what we swallow, my brother and my siblings, and the youngest doing now 72, and I'm 78, those of us left. The other, my brother is 75, and we're alive and looking like we are not about to die. And we are taking advantage of what our people have and the knowledge we have acquired thanks to our inheritance. We come from medicine family. Those medicine we have, is it our property or is it a trust to the community, which is the tradition. So I want us to think seriously along this line because when we talk of meeting industrialists and market people and the stock market, it has failed. That's the model that have been applied. That's not going to help Africa. And we have to come up with an African model that will find a way of transferring African knowledge to African people. And in fact, my communities are about to set up a Polytechnic Institute. Over the weekend, there was a meeting and they made me chairman of the steering board, the implementation board. And the issue is how do we create an institute that is tied to Obo community culture, that we promote the life of our people, that we plan from what we have for our people to be at a certain stage in a certain number of years without dependence on outsiders who don't have our interests first, like it has become the new thing, America first, Africa first, my community first. How do we get that done? That's how the international system works. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof, for throwing additional light on this subject. Dr. Kenneth Nkumauda, you would like to ask your question now?
Okay, yeah. Before I ask this question, I want to comment on what the last three speakers said. I think they are all correct. Incidentally, Dr. Zobli was talking on models and best practices for effective partnership between researchers and industrial stakeholders. I'm going to ask questions on that, but his comment on in fact, his general model is that there has to be, I summarize it in one sentence, there has to be a political will, because he was talking about government involvement. There has to be a political will, a government that can come out and say no to all these things. Like he gave an example in Quebec, one company was mandated to provide all the hospital beds. And I think in West Africa, in French-speaking West Africa, we've gotten to that level because they have said, go to hell, France, go to hell, the West. We can take care of ourselves. So if there is that type of political will in Africa, in the different countries in Africa, I think we are going to make a very good headway. And that supports what Professor Swago was talking about. The solution has to be from within. We don't have to depend on if US, you said it's not donated. If UNICEF did not donate something, then we will all die. That's not what Africa should be depending on. But let me ask my question. I know that in the Western world, in the universities in the Western world, postgraduate studies, especially PhDs, postdoctorals, they are arranged with respect to an available funding. Because I know that there are some times if you apply for a PhD in UK, in US, for maybe, let's say, medical informatics, they will tell you there's no funding for that. There are fundings for maybe AI and medicine, this, that. So what I'm trying to say is that in developed world, the universities, they establish funding waiting for, researchers to, come in. I mean, professors and scholars, they get this funding. It can be from multinationals, can be from government agencies. And then they invite students, postgraduate students, PhD students, postdoctoral, so on. Why is it not happening in Africa? Because I know that can help us in this our quest for translation of African research results to industrial products, because some of these fundings come from the industry. So once you have finished the research, you are not even thinking of how is it going to be translated, because it's an industry or industrial link that, is funding it. So why is it not happening in African universities? That's my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. Who would like to comment first? Professor Nzota, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to point out something very fundamental. This fundamental thing I'm pointing out stems from that original comment that collaboration is usually intentional. And the intentional status of this collaboration would lead to active participation of the collaborators. The universities might desire the industries to fund their researches, but because these researches are not in tandem
on a larger
with
scale
the
for
need,
African community.
they are not in tandem with the needs of these industries, they will shy away from those requests. So the onus of having this done is on the two. The industries will go looking for a university. For instance, a pharmaceutical industry would go looking for a university with pharmaceutical sciences to collaborate with. A civil engineering company or industry will have no business with a medical college. So it is an intentional relationship. The universities should establish chairs. They should create opportunities for industries to indicate their interest. But what you see in our environment is that universities are seeking for funding for the building of an auditorium. They will be looking for funding for the establishment of a football field. They are not, these things are tangential to the need of the industries. They do not align with what the industry needs. The universities have to be intentional about this. Align with the industry that you can meet their need. And you show interest. Align with individuals who would want to establish chairs and say, this chair is in honor of this. They will give 50 million every year for research in biomedical technology. So it is unfortunate that we do not have these alignments and collaborations because we have not taken the bull by the horn. There should be a committee, what I refer as the Intellectual Property Committee. The duty of this committee will be to seek for collaborations with industries in line with their needs and sensitize the various departments that have a capacity of generating the researches that would spur these industries to action, that will lead to positive development and growth of these industries. When this is done, you would see industries coming up with their requests. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof. Let's listen to Dr. Zwabli, then I will make additional comments. Everyone, please take note. We are rounding up at 7 p.m. That would, okay. I think that would keep us in 2 hours. So go ahead, please. Then I'll make my comment.
As I said in my presentation, there has to be a political will to African countries. Biomedical engineering is not well known, even here in North America. It's our responsibility to let our government or our governments know the existence of such an expertise, so that they can authorize the opening of biomedical engineering programs for graduate or undergraduate students. And in our African Polytechnic universities that already exist. So there are some governmental funding here. We have some governmental funding and private funding that is like systematic in our Polytechnic and university here. It's what is to be developed in Africa to make it systematic also. So I think that is the difference between what is done here and what we have as a reality in Africa.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Now, let me point this out. This is my observation as an outsider. My orientation in my line of work is mostly marketing, so it tends to color my perception of things. Now, I've observed that most universities in Nigeria have what they call consultancy units. I did my master's at Unilag. The university, I think it happens to be then, I don't know about now, the most prominent consultancy arm. I don't know whether it was the first, so you have Unilag Consult. And then both public and private universities have consulting arms, which to me is like the marketing arm of the institution. So the question then I wonder is, how come, okay, there was a time we have Unilag Water, and I think other institutions have followed suit. What did they do? They ended up producing the same bottled water like everybody else. I'm not even sure whether there's anything special about that water. I'm not saying there should be, but imagine that when a university comes up and says, oh, the water we're producing has something else, maybe 1% something more than ordinary table water. Of course, the whole world will come calling, because there's this saying we have in marketing that if you do not say, here I am, no, sorry, it goes this way that if you cut a path to your door, the whole world will come calling. If you cut a path to your door, the whole world will come calling. Therefore, why don't we look at starting from the academic environment itself? Since there is a consulting arm, imagine that they take the research findings and turn them into products that the whole world will come to take a look. Imagine that a consulting arm of a university or makes a special bread, for example. It's a staple food, but from everybody's understanding, this bread, there's something special about it, which could have come from researches from maybe food and by whatever institute in the university. Okay, so why don't we start from there? If we start from there, and we can see universities shelling out products of their own research and through the consultancy and marketing to the whole world, then the industrialists will now know that, oh, if we commission these guys to do something, extraordinary for us, they have the capacity. Or they can say, okay, you guys have this. Do you have, what other resources do you guys have that we can, take to the public? So why isn't that happening? The discussants, please. Thank you.
Okay, maybe I can comment on this. And it goes back to, hello?
We're hearing you, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're
It
hearing.
goes back to the initial issue of translation of research results from high institution shelves to industries and the community. And we must go beyond looking at the town as industry. We are looking at town as the people, the community. Translation of the research result, the purpose of establishing high institution to solutions, health solutions, engineering solutions, political solutions in the community. That's why the universities are created. That's why high institutions are created. That is how the rest of the world works. But the African Academy was by design originally by those people who initiated the modern African form of academy, because Africa originally created the academy. It's alienated. So that now when we talk of a deal, we are talking of industries and academia. No. It's how do you get from the shell to the people, to the communities, so that the universities don't just serve as just signboards in the community. So I had made a point of redesigning the job description of patent officers, say in Nigeria, where it will become their duty to scout the communities for innovations, for inventions, to patent, instead of being put on a fixed salary, and they don't have to show anything to earn that salary, and people will, like some Negwa, will go to them to register a patent, and they will demand bribe and take bribe, thereby destroying the whole process. So, by the same token, we need to switch around the duty of the researchers in the universities, so that we do not only, they don't just produce paper, drop it on the shelf, take their salary and go home. We expect them to also bring results. There should be a unit coordinating within the university or high institution, whatever, or even within the community. For instance, I'm talking of innovation. There are techniques that our people have used for thousands of years. We tend to go to them and ask them to bring it. Then we brush it up and patent it in our names. And they say, well, indigenous knowledge, what does it matter? When it is a structured stealing from our people. So there has to be a redesign of responsibility, so that the person in the university system, or the university, or the high institution, or the polytechnic institute, we know he has a duty, and that is paid for a purpose. And when he produces research results, that is there to solve community problems. Now, that paradigm, that mentality is not there. And that's what we need to switch around, so that people will say, well, at the end of the academic year, what did you produce? What is it for? Who validates it? You send it to England to validate, or to America to validate. Why people in your community know nothing about what you are doing? So I think there has to be a new paradigm, a restructuring, a reorientation of the relationship between the academy and the community. Forget industries, because industries include a palm wine tapping here. You can, how do you get a palm wine tapper in the community to tap in palm wine and not fall from a high height like they would do in Asia. They find a way of making accidents less dangerous. And that's what the university should be doing. But they're not doing it in Africa because they were not designed to do that. Thank you.
Prof. Thank you very much, Prof. I have, before we continue, I have a comment on the chat. Our government needs to create an enabling environment for academic industrial collaboration. The government, in most cases, prefer foreign innovations to indigenous ones. Thank you very much. I'm only getting the initials of the person that posted this, BO or BD rather. My comment right away, sir, is that it might even start from changing some of these our laws, like Professor Swagu has mentioned. Guess what? A friend of mine returned from university, a professor of economics, and then a partnership with his friend in US developed a technology that can do a whole lot in terms of security by providing a report of your location and attaching it to everything you do, you post on social media of that. It has very wide application. Then he Nigerianized it, and then went to patent it. Guess what he was told? He was told there's no patent law in Nigeria that covers what he has come with, because the last patent law in Nigeria was dated 1952, 1952, not 1962, not 1972, 1952. That's the patent law that is still governing the filing of patents in Nigeria. So he was turned out. He was just asked to go because there's nothing in the patent law that covers what he has come to patent. So all he did was to register the trademark and the description of it, which is not a watertight protection. So if we start by even focusing on the laws, but then he made inquiries, the question is, who is going to sponsor such a law in the National Assembly, knowing the supposed or alleged complicated process involved? So the matter is just going to sit there, and then new ideas that can be covered by patent laws may not be covered because the existing patent law does not have that coverage. So talking about government enabling environment, creating an enabling environment, those are some of the fundamentals I want to contribute.
Okay. Then that's where the African Network of Professionals comes in. It can mobilize and push such laws through different professional organizations. And these people are sufficient to move through so many organizations and get the parliaments in Africa to change these things.
Okay, noted. I'm not chairs. Dr. Zwabli, Dr. Kumauda, and the rest of us that are part of the board.
I have a comment.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, sir.
I have a comment for the chat, the question or the remark. I think that making devices locally in Africa doesn't mean cheaper quality. We need to be competitive with what is already existing. We need to have equal or better quality at cheaper price. So if our government for now prefer foreign designs, it's our responsibility to make better solutions at reasonable prices. So it's to say that that's the reality for now, but we have work to do so that next time we develop devices, they have to be competitive according to what exists already.
Thank you very much. This comment was posted by Dr. Babatunde David Olaoshebikon. Dr. Olaoshebikon, thank you very much for posting this question. It has elicited very interesting comments from our panel of discussants. All right, we're rounding up. We're rounding up, have 10 minutes. So maybe we can spend those 10 minutes in parting. Okay, Professor Nzota, please go ahead. Your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you so much. In addition to what Dr. Ebani said, we have a body, African Biographical Center, that has the duty of producing a director of professionals. That we have an online edition. And from this discussion, from the outcome of this, I think we should, in addition, produce a directory of abstracts, a little book of abstracts from these professionals in the various areas, with a view to soliciting for the commercialization of these research findings and results. That means that the African Biographical Center would now solicit for this collaboration that has not been there ab initio with the various professions and the various institutions where these professionals are domiciled. If that is achieved, it means that the research works in biomedical engineering from Federal University of Technology, Owerri, for instance, would now have relevance in the industrial need of biomedical engineering equipment producing industries. And different professionals would now have a platform of collaboration with the various industries. This means that an app will be created which would link with the various industries who will subscribe to these the apps and specify what they want, and it will be a linkage opportunity. That's my thinking, and I think it will go. Thank you.
Zota, I think this discussion is concluding on a very, very powerful note, in the sense that we've taken our journey to the east, to the west, to the north, to the south. Now something concrete is coming out by way of an assignment, by way of a project that the ANOP and then the biomedical, sorry, not biomedical center, the
ABC, African Biomedical Center.
Yes, can take up now as a project. And good thing, a couple of the directors are here. So not speaking for them, but I believe we have accepted this challenge to create the enabling environment while waiting for government, at least create an independent enabling environment by providing the information that is lacking. In other words, move everything from the shelf to a platform where those who are looking for that information exist. And then we can then start from there. Back to my question, who is going to bear the cat? So the ABC consortium will now have to bear the cat. I think that is a very practical conclusion to this, this conversation, right? So, gentlemen, our panel of discussants, we appreciate your contribution. Please, can you take 1 or 2 minutes to say some parting comments? We have about 5 to 6 minutes to round up. Okay, Professor Sogo, please, a minute or two.
Okay, I want to remind us that the issue confronting Africa is sovereignty over our lives, over our health, over our food, over our air, over that COVID taught Africa that Africa needs to depend on itself or die. And that doctrine has been formalized in the doctrine of my country first, America first, Canada first, Europe first, Russia first, China first. Africa first means that Africa has to take responsibility for their survival. And that means being able to translate knowledge that is lying all over African research desks into solutions for African health, for African food, for African transport, for all kinds of things, which the African social structure now is not designed to do. Like we have made the last point about the patent system that is so ancient. 1952 in Nigeria, they said the law. And 1952, that was the heart of the colonial era. Nothing has changed. And that's part of why we are having problem where the patent officer needs to take bribe from the inventor in order to, instead of running after him, to increase his productivity and being paid for it. So let us look at the situation that Africa has a tradition of high science. Recently there have been announcements of amazing discoveries in Egypt. The world is talking about it under the pyramid, the Giza pyramid, where you have the Giza, the Sphinx, with the great all-African face, showing that Kemet was an African civilization. But now, discovery is being made of what is under it. So amazing. And it's based on an algorithm, or the Zedek algorithm of the Nile Valley or Nile Basin civilization, just like the Fa or Alpha algorithm of the Niger Congo. And these are things we have not exploited. So we need to innovate on them. Recently, the DeepSeek thing came out, and called my nephew, who is an engineer with ICT skill. I said, okay, go and framework this thing on the Alpha algorithm, which works on a hypergeometric framework, and see what happens. This is what we should be doing, and we should be doing it with aims of linking the universities, high institutions, to the communities for the common good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Professor Nzota, please.
Yeah, thank you so much for this discussion group and for the planning and organization of this. I must observe that Africa is marching forward. Rome was not built in a day. There are challenges, no doubt. There are obstacles. There are oppositions. God did not promise us that He will remove the mountains for our sakes, but He said He will make the climbing of the mountain easy. So in the midst of all this, we need to be bold. We need to be courageous. We need to move forward and ensure that some of these policies, some of these recommendations and suggestions are brought to the front burner, and we would have a commitment to them and ensure that we contribute our little quota to the onward development, positive development of Africa. Thank you so much. I am optimistic that this thing that started would produce very good results. God bless you all.
Thank you very much. Prof. and Dr. Zwabli, please. Your parting words.
Thank you very much for today's opportunity to share ideas about African development. We need to give back to our native continent. Many expertise are inside Africa and in the diaspora. Collaboration between us will help develop our continent. I invite you to join African Network of Professionals to build together collaborative ways to develop African industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And following up on that, to join African Network of Professionals, the link that brought you to this place. There is another link for joining our WhatsApp platform. We thank our host, JBD TV, for providing this platform, for making it possible for the world to hear our voice and our thoughts and our plans. Thank you very much for being our supportive partners. And I want to thank all of you who connected, and especially those of you who stayed to this time. 2 good hours of staying online is no joke. It costs time and other resources. So I appreciate your company. We're going to have another session in June for the 2nd quarter. Please get ready to join us then. We're going to notify you well in advance. Thank you very much. So, Dr. Nkumo, anything to add, please? Oh, okay. Sorry, he's not. He's disconnected. All right. Okay. So we're ending it here. See you in our webinar session. Good night. Good morning. Good afternoon, depending on your time zone. All right. So
bye, everyone.
We can end it here now. Thank you.
Bye-bye.